Hi, my name is John Michael Swift, and these are 10 reasons that I could think of about why playing music is a good idea. I'm sure there are more, but these are some pretty good ones to start with. In general, I would divide the benefits of playing music into two categories: personal benefits and social benefits. I'll start with the personal ones and we'll kind of get into the social ones as we go, because usually the personal ones come first and then the social ones a little bit later. But as you'll see, they're often intimately tied together. The first and foremost I can think of is sense of accomplishment. Two of my favorite singer-songwriters, Ed Sheeran and Jason Mraz, have both talked about their school days in interviews and said, well, basically, I didn't really feel I was good at anything else, and that's maybe why I am, doing what I'm doing today. And that's not true for everyone. I mean, a lot of us feel we got some different skills and stuff, but sitting down and working on a piece of music and feeling that sense of improvement, that can be a real confidence booster for anybody. And it's like everyone goes through ups and downs in life when you feel like you get knocked back. But if you've got a really solid music practice that you know you can go to and just build something that you know is going to matter later and is going to kind of build you up individually, that can be both a small boost and a big boost depending on the role it plays in your life. Another thing that can come out of practicing music is this sense of being very centered, or being very calmed, or very focused. And I remember my first guitar teacher always used to say that for him, music practice was like its own type of therapy. And he really liked to play Bach, like really difficult classical stuff that you really kind of got to break down into these teeny little pieces and really put together a little bit at a time. But the more I've kind of learned about good practice methods for that, I realized the most important ingredient to that is this really, really slow, deep practice. And the thing that stops most people from getting there is this fear that they're never going to get there. They're never going to learn the piece fast enough. They're never going to be good enough. And so they rush. And when you learn that it's that speeding up too much that makes it impossible for you to ever get there, and when you slow down, you actually get there quicker, you often discover this incredible space where you're just like, okay, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. There's just me and the music. And when you totally give in to that space, just the sense of calm can come over you, and the sense of focus that in a lot of other areas of life can seem really hard to accomplish. But for a lot of people that I know, they learn it there. They learn that sense of calmness through music, and then they can take it to other places. I mean, for me, that's been a big thing. Third benefit I'm going to talk about is the development of structured critical thinking skills. Now, especially when you study classical music. I mean, there's other genres you get this from, but like classical music more than anything. When you learn how to take apart problems and solve them systematically, the way you have to when you're like working on a big piece of music, I mean, that is a skill that is so valuable and applicable in so many areas of life. And that kind of discipline is just like, man, that just like, I mean, you just level up so much as a person and your ability to deal with life by cultivating that kind of discipline. And it's just, it's so worth doing, the discipline of learning how to tackle something that seems like this big, complicated impossibility, but training yourself to take it a little bit at a time over a sustained period of time. I mean, that really is a life changer for a lot of people, because you learn how to wait for things that you want. You learn how to deal with things that seem impossible. You learn how to just structure big, solving big problems in your brain. There's just so many valuable things, and you do them all in the context of creating, one thing that matters, the piece of music. And I think that's really cool, personally. On the flip side of learning about structure, you can also learn about spontaneity. And for a lot of people, this comes a little bit later, but usually when people have learned a little bit, they've learned some scales, they've learned some pieces, and they're like, yeah, but this isn't really all that fun yet. Well, then someone teaches them how to jam, and they're like, okay, I think I get this a little more now. I can remember one particular student I had who came into our first piano lesson, and she starts banging away on this Chopin piece, and I'm like, oh crap, I've never played Chopin before in my life. This person is way better at piano than I didn't think I was going to be able to teach her anything. But what I could see was that she was just so focused on getting the notes right, and she was just stiff as a board. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can help you with Chopin, but I want to just try something real quick. Let's try just playing the white keys on the piano. you know. And at first she was like, she's trying to find some song like Happy Birthday in it. Like she literally had no ability to just like loosen out of what was on the page. But after a second, you could see it kind of snap in her brain. And she was just like, oh, she started playing with the notes. And that's when she really started like playing music. And over the course of the next couple of months, I taught her how to play jazz progressions and improvise over 2/5s. And you could just see like this happiness came to her because all the piano chops she developed playing classical music, they really just opened up this emotional world for her when she learned to improvise. And she wrote me like the nicest letter ever when our lessons were over. She was like, you opened up this whole new world of music for me. And I could really see that happening. And I realized that like that's a real life changer for a lot of people, is learning how to just be free and, you know, play rather than work music. The favorite one of anyone who studied music therapy is this basic idea of mood control. And I think it's a little nuts that there's some study out there that says, well, people who listen to Mozart for a half hour before they sleep better. And I'm like, that sounds like to me. I've never been able to get that. But I personally have found that if I listen to the right type of dance music, that can elevate my mood quite a bit. And actually, I kind of do dance workouts in my basement quite a bit, and all I need is the right type of electronic music, and it puts me in a pretty good mood. And, you know, every one of us who's gone through difficult times, we find like listening to our favorite types of songs can really kind of help calm us down. I mean, you know, research will say that music has an analgesic effect, but I think all of us kind of using music on either a small way or a big way to kind of, you know, give us something to reflect on, to help us kind of, you know, control our mood a little bit. I mean, that's something that everyone learns on a personal level, but I think when you really start messing with it consciously, it can go to even much deeper levels. And on that note, the last benefit I want to talk about on the personal level is accessing ecstasy/psychedelic states. And you know, it's one thing to just, you know, listen to music because you're sad, or listen to music because you're exercising or whatever. But when you really listen to music to open your mind, really different things can happen. I mean, you really have to be receptive to it. But there have been two really kind of different but profound experiences that I've had with listening to music that really just opened things up in me in a big way. Recently, I've been playing with a band called Carrier Wave. And, you know, when jam music really hits a peak, I mean, you really feel like you were out of your body. And, you know, earlier this year was one of the most depressing times of my life. I've really been, my mood was really in the toilet. And having some of those moments really kind of reminded me, wow, life is good. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, that was really cool. It was like, oh, life is good. You know, it just kind of melted all the crazy stories that I had in my head about how bad my life was. And, you know, that was a really important experience for me. And, you know, even years before that, I did a therapy called Guided Imagery and Music, which is actually known to put people in a lot of very exotic states of mind. I mean, a lot of people who do research on spirituality will talk about transpersonal experiences. It's actually fairly common for people who do guided imagery and music to have what's called a transpersonal experience. You know, these are, you know, things you can measure, you know, scientifically. You can look at brain waves and tell when people are in these sorts of states. And, you know, having done this therapy, I kind of realized, wow, just relaxing, just laying down, and listening to the right type of music can show you all kinds of things in your mind, in your spirit, that you may not have, that you just wouldn't experience any other way. But it's very different from just like feeling very high. It's very visual. It's very sensory. You can get such a variety of deep experiences from just, you know, relaxing and listening to the right type of music. And what that is going to vary from person to person. But, I mean, the variety of experiences is just totally endless. So now kind of stretching out a little bit more into the social. First thing I like to talk about when I think of social benefits of music are just making friends. Kind of going back to my sort of depressive episode earlier this year. I can just remember sometimes when I would come out of a couple of my band rehearsals and I would feel kind of that same thing of just like the friends I had in those bands, the relationships that I had, which were really just good, supportive, creative relationships, just really gave me a sense of something to live for that was really positive. And that came because we all shared a common interest, and that's almost a separate benefit from like just maintaining good friendships through music, is like having your social circle increase because of music. I know people who travel for their work, but they can go almost anywhere in the world and find a good jam. And especially as I've gone to parties over the past couple of months and worked on a lot on mental health problems, as part of my like music therapy research, I meet all kinds of people through playing music that actually work on the same things that I do, and we get talking because we were like, oh, we were both at this party, and that drum solo that dude did was totally sick, and oh yeah, but you were, you thought that was interesting because you had some other, you get talking to people, about common interests, and your social circle grows because you go to these things where people like to hang around each other and share an interest. So that's always something you can look forward to if you play music. And if you play music somewhat reasonably well and make people feel good playing music sometimes, you can look forward to your social standing within groups increasing. Again, as I was running around earlier this year, working on mental health problems that I was studying, a lot of people who had seen me in established bands in town were like, oh, this guy's legit. And that's not because they know anything about my mental health work. They know that I played in some band, But that has really helped me in a lot of other business ventures that I've done, and that's really kind of true for anyone. If you are if you're the guy who played the sick guitar solo on stage, a lot of people who think that's cool will talk to you about other unrelated stuff because they're like, oh, that's some cool guy who played the cool guitar solo or whatever the heck you did. And if you carry yourself well and you create good art, you can look forward to that really enhancing your standing in any group that appreciates what you're doing. And to get a little bit more to the profound, I think it's really overlooked, but like having a way to contribute back to the community. It can be as simple as, okay, I'm playing at a nursing home. You got people who are in a life situation that often deteriorates your health. Having music there can be a big deal. That's a way you can give back. You can be like Ed Sheeran and write a song like The A-Team that's about sex workers, and then play a concert that raises 40,000 British pounds, for a charity for sex workers. That's a way to give back to society. You might be the next Bob Dylan who writes songs that inspire people to fight against a war they don't believe in. Or you might be like Toby Keith that inspires people to fight a war they do believe in. But the influence that music has on groups and people and their values, even just the glue of keeping communities together, people, singing together at holidays or when they go to their religious services or as a family, music is such a huge social glue. And whatever community you're a part of, and you bring your music to, you're giving something back to that community. That's an offering you make that's beyond you, and that has its own. That's that's a personal benefit to most people as well. To kind of wrap all this in a package, the thing I like to tell a lot of people is about this concept from integral psychology called vertical coherence. It's this idea that, when you work on little things, you have some picture of how they're going to work into the bigger picture of your life. And when most people start picking up, a style of music, they're not thinking about, contributing back to society. Well, a few do, but most don't. Most are like, man, I don't go to a bar and pick up some chicks by playing Wonderwall. And I'm like, that's cool and stuff. A lot of times the benefits of playing music will come on their own. But what does help is if you have some idea of how those things happen and you learn music and you play it in such a way that's going to help you realize as many of these benefits as possible. Because, doing things like spreading yourself out too thin and not playing anything well, can really get in the way, or, really expecting certain types of benefits that are not very common. It's just, like becoming a rock star. It's like there's just not that many people become rock stars. If you're totally focused on being a rock star and that's the only thing that matters to you, you're going to miss most of the other good stuff. So if there's one thing I encourage people to do is when you start playing music, try to figure out what's a music culture that you are in. What types of songs are around, where do people play them, and how are some of these benefits realized? And just have them in mind and try to learn the songs, choose the songs you're going to learn and the way that you learn them and the level to which you master them too, with some of these benefits in mind, because that's what's going to make you able to do it more. It's like, learning music is work, and it is. I mean, some people who just like find a zone and just goof off with it all day. It can be great and all this magic and fall together. For most of us, it does take some effort, and if the hobby doesn't give anything back to you, it's really hard to keep doing it. But if you have some sense, this vertical coherence, if you kind of have the sense of, okay, how do I, make music so that I get that sense of I practice really well. I kind of built myself up. I'm playing stuff that connects me to people that I want to be connected to. I'm giving back to the community. All this stuff. If you have that, at least a little bit in your mind, you have at least a decent guess of how that stuff's going to happen, you get so much more out of your music practice. So bear that all in mind. If y'all can think of other benefits to playing music, write them down in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching this far. And yeah, come back to my channel if you want to learn more about music stuff and what it does. What music does. Deuces, y'all.